Well, hello everyone. Welcome to today's session on driving retail business transformation through customer-oriented culture and RFID. My name is Bill Hardgrave, and I currently serve as the president of the University of Memphis, and I'll be moderating today's session. About 20 years ago, I started working with a little company called Walmart on a little project called RFID. And since that time, I've had the privilege of working with many retailers and brand owners throughout the US and beyond. You know, RFID was just one technology at the time, but since that time, we've seen RFID and other technologies are changing the way we think about and conduct retail, contributing to what some are calling the digital retail revolution. So with us today, we have a great panel. We have an innovator in retail in the use of digital ID, Japan-based fast retailing, and two of the foremost thought leaders in digital ID from Accenture and Avery Dennison. So at this time, I'd like our panelists to take just a moment to introduce themselves. And Bill, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Dr. Hardgrave. My name is Bill Toney. I'm the Vice President of Global Market Development and the PMO for Avery Dennison.
Hello everyone, my name is Ray Marciano. I'm a Managing Director at Accenture in our retail practice, and I'm our global lead for commerce and growth. So great to be here with you.
Takahiro, I'd like for you to introduce yourself and then introduce fast retailing for us, please.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Takahiro Tambara, CEO of Fast Retailing. Thank you for giving a great opportunity to be here today. So first of all, let me give a quick introduction about our company, Fast Retailing. So Fast Retailing is the world's third largest fashion apparel retailer. Its main brand is Uniqlo. I hope you guys know Uniqlo. So the other brands include the Theory, New York-based high-end brands, and GU, lower price and more fashionable brand than Uniqlo. So we just opened the first GU pop-up store in the US in the Soho district. So as a total, we have 8 brands right now. Then the underlying brand concept across our brand is lifewear, the ultimate everyday clothing that fit into the lives of all people all over the world. So although we sell clothes, our corporate statement is changing clothes, changing conventional wisdom, and change the world. So to achieve this, we control not only retail, but also the supply chain or production design, planning, and the production itself. And also, we are aggressively investing in the digital and technology to achieve the goal. That's a brief introduction about me, about fast retailing. And also, I prepared a short video for you guys to have a better understanding about fast retailing. So could you start the video, please? Okay. Well, so this is one of our key flagship store in Tokyo, Ginza. Okay. Then we, as I said, we are providing the lifewear product to various generations. And we expand business to the global. And this is GU, and this is Theory, one of our key brands. And so currently at Uniqlo, there are over 2,300 stores globally. And we will expand our business to global, especially US and Europe, and more. And this is the definition of our lifewear, our brand concept. Then, well, so as I said, we aggressively investment digital. So this is the automated 3D knitting machines, and this is automated warehouses with RFID and other technologies. And here is the store apps for store associates. And this is our new customer experiences, which called the Style Hint. And that is our RFID scanless self-checkout system. Okay. So that's it. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Good. So, you know, one of the things that we've seen over the past several years is that they told me to hit this green button. I think we're all good. Okay, there we go. Nope, that's too far. I was told to hit the green button. They told me not to hit the red button, whatever I do. I'm going to hit the red button. There we go. So over the past several years, we've seen most retailers either move to or aspire to move to a true omni-channel environment where we have seamless interactions between the channels, where we have one view of the customer. But all of that is prefaced on having true visibility in the supply chain. And so this visibility that's demanded by consumers now for retailers to have that omni-channel experience and offer such capabilities as buy online, pick up in store, or utilize efficient shipping methods like ship from store, all of that requires visibility. And so omnichannel requires visibility, and visibility really requires RFID as a technology to drive that visibility, to have that consistent visibility. And we've seen the benefits of increased inventory accuracy and that visibility along the supply chain. So without RFID, we're finding that it's really not possible to have that visibility. Now, the use of technology such as RFID has been driven by customer demands and a corresponding attempt by retailers to truly be customer-centric. So, Takahiro, I want to start with you. What do you think it means to be truly customer-centric in your approach?
Okay. Well, so the company's DNA of innovation takes what is good for customers and society as a starting point for its ideas. So we don't think of the new services only in terms of technology. So for example, RFID. Yeah. So RFID is not the latest technology, right? That has existed for 20 or 30 years. Then we decided to introduce RFID because we judged it would be good for customers to utilize it now. So in this way, we use technology to determine whether or not it is good for customers and society. Then to make it a reproducible business system and to scale it. So it all starts with addressing the customer's key pain points, such as long line at checkout or out of stock, especially during peak seasons. So hence we developed scanless RFID self-checkout system to dramatically reduce the time to checkout, and the inventory management system with RFID to ensure the products are always available on the sales floors. I think that's a kind of the customer-centric approach and mindset and the execution.
Fantastic. So Ray, you know, in your position at Accenture, you get to see across the supply chain and across a lot of industries. What are you seeing if we kind of take a broader perspective on this customer-centric approach, just from a broad perspective? And we heard from one innovator and one retailer. What are you seeing broadly?
Well, I'd build a little bit on what Takahiro shared, is I think he's hitting on sort of the core of this challenge around customer centricity. We recently did a survey to talk to retailers, and what we found was 95% of every executive is sharing the customer is evolving faster than they can transform their business. So we're moving into this pace of change that we need to adapt. I reflect, having been in this industry for quite a while, I reflect back 5 or 6 years. 5 or 6 years ago when we talked about consumer, we bucketed them into 3, 5, 7 different personas. And we said, you got to fit into one of those molds. Well, the reality is we all we're much more multidimensional than that. I just reflect the last 3 days. When I left, I was a traveler, left Chicago to come here. Over the weekend, I saw my sister, so now I'm a brother, family. I'm here presenting on stage as a panelist. I'm interacting with our clients as sort of a professional. And in every one of those sort of moments, sort of my needs and wants vary drastically. So how do we connect with an individual at that level as their persona changes during the day of the week, over time, and then serve them up more rapidly? And that's really hard to do. So this is getting Bill a little bit to what you shared around like this idea around customer 360 of understanding every one of those dimensions and being able to serve up meaningful interactions there.
So let me poke on that just a little bit, if I may. I mean, it's a great perspective. So how are you seeing broadly, how is that changing business strategy then? How are businesses kind of changing how they approach what they do?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is a lot similar to what Takahiro shared is we're finding individual use cases.
Okay.
And finding a customer pain point and then solving that pain point. And we're finding that's very productive to advance because if you look at everything, it becomes a mountain that is so big, it's actually too hard to climb it all. And so we got to find individual areas that we can solve a problem. In the example we were sharing here, maybe that's removing friction at checkout, making that fast, easy, and convenient. I think it's the number 2 pain point for customers is when they're ready to leave, They want to get out of the store. But finding individual use cases and solving for them is the way our clients are solving.
So that leads into a good question for Bill. And so, Bill, we've heard the broad perspective. We heard from fast retailing. So if we take a little deeper dive and we look at the technologies driving this, in particular RFID. So picking up on what Ray was talking about, what are some of those benefits that we're seeing from creating that seamless customer experience?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I think the first thing to kind of take a step back, we always think of consumer experience as something that happens in the store. But the very foundational thing you have to do is make sure you have the right product in the right place at the right time. Because if you think about it, the journey never starts until you find the right product. So RFID elevates inventory accuracy to 95, 98, 99% to ensure as the consumer shops across channels, you've got the right product in the right place at the right time. That's when the moment of truth happens and the entire experience starts. And then from there, it really revolves around what Ray was talking about, taking a 360-degree view of your consumer around pulling out friction and enhancing experience. So two things that we're seeing as big trends right now that customers are looking at is, once I find what I'm looking for and I'm in a store, for example, how do I then bring that product to life as I'm walking in the store? So I want to add something like a 2D barcode on the garment or on my trim item. I can scan that 2D barcode. The brand or retailer then can communicate to that customer about the product. So enhancing the product and bringing that experience to the consumer while they're in store is a really interesting, evolving concept. And then next, how do I take as much friction as I can out of that process? And as Takahiro said, looking at self-checkout with RFID, looking at associate checkout with RFID to really bring the till lines down to a very, very small level is a big, big friction that you're pulling out of the experience. And these two things, I think, are just small examples of how RFID foundationally is starting the experience, and then from a checkout perspective is really enhancing and pulling friction out of the overall experience.
So we really focused on that product visibility and availability from that, and inventory accuracy, and that really is the core customer experience, right? Is having that product when, where, and how the consumer wants it. But Bill, can you think of some other things that may not be directly related to that, but still feed into that consumer experience?
You bet. I think the other interesting thing is when you move to RFID, you move to basically serializing all your products. So think about, we talked about checkout with RFID, you're checking out at a serial number level. So then another pain point from a customer experience perspective is when I return a product, how do you make that return process very simple? And since you have a serialized number then tied into the checkout process, the returns process becomes very simple. But the other thing that you do when you actually have a serialized inventory and a serialized checkout, for the first time you unlock data like theft, because we all talk about shrink from an EAS perspective, but when you Pareto shrink, the main thing is what is theft, what's administrative issues, what are all the other issues. But when you know what you have in stock and you know what you sold at the serialized level, and then the next time you inventory something and you didn't sell it, you know it was stolen, now you can actually replenish that item to make sure that product is back in stock when the consumer is looking for it again, and you can pinpoint when that product was potentially stolen, where it might have been stolen from. You unlock a lot of the analytics that now retailers can put analytic systems across to really start to understand and address things like theft prevention, as well as enhance the experience end to end from a returns process.
Thank you, Bill. So Takahiro, we've been focusing on the benefits to the consumer at the store. Ray touched on some of those broader benefits across the supply chain. What do you see as the main benefits to retailers by embracing the digitization of the supply chain?
Okay. Well, in fact, it is hard to imagine a world in which the supply chain does not include the digital and technology, right? So the supply chain is not only the movement of goods, I mean the logistics and commercial distributions, but also the movement of information and data. So as digital twin suggests, so the essence of business is to make decisions and execute them by capturing the movement of information more precisely and in real time. So in this light, so centralization or visualization and analysis of all the data in the supply chain are indispensable and cannot be discussed without any digitization technology. That's my thought.
So So Ray, picking up from that then, when you look across the entire space, what are you seeing as the ROI for retailers for digitizing the supply chain? That's a big question. We only have a 30-minute session here.
We have 14 minutes left. I don't know if we can answer that question in 14 minutes. So there's so many areas that we can unlock. But here's what I would share. Whenever we look at the digitization of supply chain, the number one area that pops to the top is inventory visibility and availability. And that becomes sort of the key unlock for everything that a retailer is trying to do. The ability to see that product from source, on the water, in store, in every one of my nodes, and then serve that up is the biggest challenge that our clients are trying to solve. And RFID becomes a great enabler, as we've been talking through here, to really unlock that. And that I can know at any moment in time where inventory is, I can then act and react to the changing needs of the business. And we're seeing that becoming really important. If we, again, rewinding a little bit, like 3 to 5 years ago, we spent so much time talking about optimization. How do I get costs out? How do I run as efficiently as possible? I'm not saying that's not important anymore, but the ability to adapt and react is actually becoming a bit more of the new currency, because that consumer, as we talk through, is moving so quickly. We need to be able to adapt to her needs rapidly. So RFID and this visibility really helps us unlock that.
So Bill, I mean, you work with a lot of companies. Anything to add to what Ray talked about from an ROI perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing is when you look at omnichannel obviously is still the big trend and buzzword, but when you look at omnichannel, essentially today, RFID is getting inventory accurate within your stores and your DC, so you can consolidate inventory and make sure you're finding the right product for the right consumer at the right time. But as you start to go back in the supply chain and you start to feel really comfortable before it actually hits your DC, and you start to rethink the omnichannel model, I think there's a lot of different ways where retailers now are saying, if I'm really comfortable with what I have in a carton that's coming in before it hits my DC, how do I rethink my inventory supply chain? How do I rethink where I'm putting inventory to actually increase conversion, increase availability, even outside of what I'm doing today from a store and a DC perspective? So we do see this ongoing discussion about rethinking inventory availability within an omnichannel perspective to drive ROI. And the key metrics I think that you see, obviously you'll have a sales impact, you'll have a margin impact that'll drive the ROI. I know Accenture's done a lot of work and did a white paper a couple of years ago with the survey they did talking about an 8.3% on average ROI for retailers using RFID. So very substantial, but I do think there's some new models coming in omnichannel once you feel very comfortable about what you have on changing things a little bit differently.
Could I add one thing?
Of course.
I apologize. I would be remiss if we didn't. So sustainability. And so as we think about its importance for all of us here, but the next generation of consumer, sustainability is very important to them. And understanding and aligning to brands that have a sort of a sustainable purpose is equally important. So RFID actually starts to unlock this ability to trace a product all the way back to source, to certify at every step of the way that it's from an organic farmer, taking care of the environment and delivering that to consumers is becoming really important. So we start to get beyond inventory and start to connect to sort of that emotional need of the consumer.
You know, first of all, it's glad to be back in person after a long hiatus away from NRF. And one of the things I love to do at NRF each year is just kind of walk the floor and see what the emerging trends are. You can pick that up from the companies who are here, what they're highlighting, and so forth. So, Takahiro, a question for you is, you know, when we look at the things that we're seeing on the sales floor around AI, robotics, digital ID, where does RFID fit into that?
Okay, well, data is the basis for AI and robotics. And data is what allows AI technology to be utilized and robotics to be controlled. So data should be accurate and granular enough to be meaningful to business. From this perspective, RFID has made it possible to recognize individual items. So in other words, so it has made it possible the digitization of our analog commodity, the clothing.
Yeah.
The digitization of clothing has become one of our key platforms for new technologies such as AI and robotics. And so Actually, this RFID initiative has enabled many business transformations such as self-checkout or operational efficiency and automated warehouses. However, what I have learned from this initiative is that more than those operational transformations, but how can I say, the human growth.
Yeah.
So I have confirmed that when the people work together on site towards the same goals, and for the customers with trial and error, that those people grow by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
Actually, that RFID initiative was initiated by me when I was young. Then actually, in reality, I myself have grown very much through this initiative as well. So I hope that, so this growth will lead to the next innovation.
Right.
And I think that is kind of the company we aspire to be.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Well, and it's shown by the innovations that you have, and you continue to be an innovator, which is, we're glad to have you on the panel because the company is recognized as one of those companies that is always out there looking ahead. And Bill, I want to then ask you kind of the same question. I mean, as a leading technology service provider in this field, in this space, and Bill and I go way back. We've worked together for a long time, and RFID and other things. But it's not one technology, right? It's not about, hey, here's the technology that's going to solve all of our problems. It's about innovating a portfolio. Where are you seeing RFID fit in that portfolio of these emerging technologies as you come along? And with the danger that everybody, people want to wait until the latest, greatest, right? But it's not one thing; it's a portfolio. How are you guys approaching that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'll frame it this way. I think when you look at the digital age is moving the edge of IT and technology to product, right? So now products have sensors on them, whether it's an RFID sensor or a 2D barcode sensor. So one of the big trends that we see is if you break sensors down, sensors are either one-to-many and one-to-one. RFID is a great one-to-many sensor, meaning you want to capture a lot of information very quickly. You want to capture inventory in your store. You want to capture what's in a carton. RFID is the best technology from a sensor perspective to do that. Now, if you want to actually engage with a consumer, 2D barcode, as we've all seen through the COVID, everyone's now very familiar with 2D barcode. So how do you measure or how do you integrate one-to-one sensors like a 2D barcode with RFID on, say, like a price ticket on a garment, et cetera, where now you can unlock consumers interacting with the product. And so now we're seeing this merge of RFID as a one-to-many sensor, 2D barcode as a one-to-one sensor, where retailers and brands now can unlock every application in the supply chain from factory, distribution center, store, consumer engagement, and then post-purchase. And we've actually started building a digital product ID platform that we call Atma.io that allows all this digital metadata to come in, and retailers can take that metadata as consumers are scanning the product to unlock the product, to start to engage with the product. So we think the merging of these sensor technologies is going to unlock essentially all the use cases and all the metadata that retailers are looking for in the supply chain.
Ray, anything you want to add to that?
I would take what they've shared and maybe go up one more level.
Okay.
And they both hit on it. So the thing that we're seeing fundamentally change in retail is data as currency. And if data becomes currency for a retailer, you start to unlock a lot more. And I think that retailers right now are just on the cusp of understanding all the data they have. Here we're talking a lot about product data. We take product data, connect that to consumer data, you start to unlock a tremendous amount of possibilities. I think we're seeing data as a new currency for retailers, and we're on the cusp of leveraging that currency.
So let me then pick up on that a little bit. And Bill, you mentioned it in your remarks. We've talked about some of the main use cases when we take it that consumer perspective, right? Per the title, the consumer-oriented culture and RFID. What are some of the use cases that we haven't talked about that probably we need to think about from a consumer perspective? And Takahiro, I'd like, if you think of anything that maybe you went into this without thinking, okay, this isn't a major use case, but it emerged as a use case. So I'll just kind of open it up to all of you. What are some of those other use cases that we're seeing that are like, okay, we really hadn't thought about that initially, but it's really turning into be a great use case for the use of RFID?
Well, I think as I said, we are a very customer-centric company, so we don't think from the RFID technologies. We always seek the what is the good things for customers. Then we look for the best solution for that, for solve that situation. The RFID is one of the key solutions for us.
Right.
Then, like Ray mentioned, that we also, of course, consider the sustainability. To deep dive to the sustainability, I think RFID is, of course, one of the key technology, but it's not enough. We need to combine several technologies. Like that, we always think there are several technologies to combine, then to solve the customers' pain points.
Okay. Yeah. Well, any use case that jumps out at you that early on we didn't think about it being a key use case, and even when we focus on the consumer, but now it's bubbling up. Anything that comes to mind?
I think we spent a lot of time so far talking about inventory and understanding where the inventory is, understanding the accuracy of that inventory, and we touched briefly on it, but I think that becomes sort of the unlock. I like to think of like RFID and inventory as like, I don't know if it's a pyramid or an iceberg, but like so far what we've talked through is the tip of it.
Yeah.
But once you've stepped through that journey and you're there, I think there's a tremendous amount of experience we can drive with RFID for the customer. So imagine I'm looking to try to buy a shoe. It's got an RFID tag in it. If I pick up that shoe and I put it near a sensor, I can now educate you on that shoe. I can connect you into where was that shoe made, who's the sponsor of it, what are the products in it, who else is sitting in it. You can see reviews on it. So I can give you a digital experience in store, and I can sort of merge together physical and digital retail. So I think we spent a lot of time on the inventory, but I think that you start to unlock these customer use cases once you start on that journey.
I mean, the only thing I would add, I think you've got your external customer and your internal customer. And one of the things we see too from an employee perspective, when you start to use technologies like RFID and you have really good inventory accuracy, and you start to get omni-channel orders, for example, in a store for buy online, pick up in store, ship from store, it makes it very productive. And you tend to make happy customers and happy employees by making things very productive. So I think some of the employee satisfaction metrics around I'm finding things faster, customers are finding what they're looking for, is another aspect that we don't talk enough about, but I think employee satisfaction is another interesting discussion.
So I do want to throw out one use case just to see what you're seeing here. And this is something that has grown over the last 10 years. More than 10 years ago, we didn't think about this being a use case. Returns management. Right, and now if you're really going to be omni-channel and you're sourcing, the products and the consumers getting it either from the store online, they're buying online, pick up in store, returns become more difficult, right? Where are you seeing the use of technologies really drive that use case? And from a consumer's perspective, it's a growing concern and a growing source of issues for consumers. Just very quickly, what are you seeing there? And you can start with if you're starting to handle that.
Yeah, it's good questions.
Yeah.
Actually, the return is very important topic for us. But I think we cannot solve this return stuff only using the RFID. RFID is contributing to improve the accuracy of inventory, but return is a different topic. So we need to looking for the best solution.
I would share two things. I think what we're doing on checkout, the ability to seamlessly check out, we're not too far from a world where I walk in with my garments, I drop it in a bin, and I walk away. Yep. Bill talked about the serialization of inventory, so we know what that inventory is, we know who bought it, and we can immediately credit you. And oh, by the way, if you return something that was soiled or damaged, we know who you are, so we can come back and take care of that. And I think the second one is really sort of in the luxury space. So as we think about sort of counterfeiting, RFID becomes an enabler for us as I return merchandise to a store. It can help certify that is that authentic merchandise purchased from there. So I think there is an unlock here from a frictionless and an accuracy perspective that we'll see start to emerge in returns.
So Bill, 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I would say what Ray said. I think counterfeiting and authenticity, especially when you start to look at some of the resale models that some folks are looking at, authenticating a product is what it says it is a big trend. When you serialize product, you can authenticate it, and I think that's another big trend that's coming.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, you have one of your stores over in Hudson Yards,
Yeah.
right? So we would invite folks while you're here, go over and see this in action over at Hudson Yards. We are out of time to entertain any questions from the audience, but I would invite anybody who has questions for our panelists, come visit us at booth 5721.
Correct.
And our panelists will be around right after this session. So if you have any questions, please follow them over and ask the questions. Thank you all for attending today's session. Let's thank our panelists.